Okay, apocalyptic literature. Last week, we did a brief overview of, I keep reminding myself that normally this might be like a whole semester class that we get to barrel through. So we talked about the definitions of our terms, how it is revealing something, secret maybe, secret to outsiders, where the revelation is going to the insider group. We talked about the genre, that it's usually in a narrative framework, that as we will see this tonight, it is a revelation to someone, usually written in the first person. I saw this. We usually have an angel that will interpret, because the mere human mind cannot understand what they're seeing. And we also talked a lot about this being crisis literature, that we have a group that needs this secret revealed, that needs to know how the events are going to pan out, that God will win. So we had a couple of leftovers from last week. Someone asked me for a bibliography of texts if you were interested in reading more. These three are what I am using amongst others. They're not super scholarly. Some of the last one actually gives you some of the text to read. Some of these are kind of hard to find. They're not in our Bibles. You have to Google them, and they're in some sacred text archive somewhere or something. So the last one is interesting because it gives some background information, but also the actual texts or snippets of the text to get some reading. Next week, I will be using it as we work our way through First Enoch. But the other two, the top two, I think do a good job of giving good background material and explanations. These books are in our MCC library. If you do not know, as a Manhattan community member, you can get a library card at our MCC library. So it's a public library. Caleb goes to the annual meeting of the North Central Kansas Library Systems. We run into each other there. I'm on the board. But anyway, so whether you want to actually check out books or just go and read while you're there, you are more than welcome. I have them now. When we're done, I will return them. I get dispensations for due dates. Anyway, so I have found these helpful, and you can read them when I'm finished. Someone else asked about whether other religions have apocalyptic literature, and the answer is yes, sort of. So all of our major world religions have texts about the afterlife and the end of the world. So in that regard, yes. But if we are considering our Jewish and Christian apocalyptic literature as crisis literature, the secret revelation to the insider group, the answer is no. I could not find, now, world religions is not my area of expertise, so I could be wrong, but in my research, I could not find anything like what we have, where a supernatural being comes and gives this vision of how it's going to be. More, this is what you need to do to get to heaven, and there will be, a time of fire. Fire is everywhere. But the secret part of the apocalyptic literature thing, I couldn't really find in that regard. So my answer to this question is yes, sort of. Okay, so tonight I want to talk about Jewish apocalyptic literature. I have to tell you, I had no idea last summer or last spring when Jolene's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, apocalyptic literature. That'll be so fun. Oh, Okay, it is great, and it'll be amazing when we're all done. But I spent all summer in Daniel, and the apocalyptic part is only the last half. So, oh my gosh. Anyway, it was intense. Um, so, this is lucky for us because technically there's only one Jewish apocalypse. Daniel 7 through 12. We have other prophets, Joel, Zechariah, Ezekiel, that have elements, but none of them, Ezekiel sees things, but they're all in the third person. It's like done to him. Whereas in Daniel 7, we shift. I, Daniel, saw. Ezekiel never really talks like that. So technically, the only official Old Testament apocalypse is Daniel 7 through 12, which is great because it's going to take all 2 hours to go through that. So we didn't even have time to do anything else, even if we wanted to. So, some background of Daniel. Remind ourselves. We did this a little bit last week. It's been a long week. We've all had things come up. We might not be feeling great. We got this. Okay, so specifically, right, the northern kingdom has fallen, but Daniel is down in the south. And we have the fall of the southern kingdom. And we have multiple waves of deportation. We do not know which wave Daniel participated in, but some people wonder if it was the first wave because he had, like, the best of the best were taken in the first wave. So, in the first wave, King Jehoiakim renounces his allegiance with Nebuchadnezzar II in response. So this means that King Jehoiakim is no longer paying tribute. This is problematic. We want our money. So, in response, Nebuchadnezzar lays siege to Jerusalem. Jehoiachin surrenders after 3 months of siege because Jehoiakim and his family and the leading citizens of Jerusalem are taken in the first wave of deportation. We have Zedekiah appointed as king, and he too decides to withhold tribute from Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar invades Jerusalem again, and we have a second wave of deportation. Here is the masses go into exile. Our third wave, which we can date to 581 BCE, we have Gedaliah appointed as administrator, 2 Kings 25. He's assassinated, and his family and his guards. We have some Judahites fleeing to Egypt with Jeremiah. Jeremiah I think he dies down in Egypt. Anyway, this ends up being the end. Temple is destroyed. Jerusalem is sacked and destroyed. I mean, there are stages. And all of the gold vessels used in the temple are carried off to Babylon. So there's conjecture whether Daniel was equated with a leading citizen and sent off to exile in the first wave, but by 581, Daniel is in exile in Babylon. Here's a map of a potential route the deportations could have taken. So you could just turn this backwards and make this Abraham's journey to the promised land, which is ironic because Abram is from Ur, which is a little farther south. So we are back, we've come full circle. We're back to where we started. Probably a sermon in there about that, I don't know. Okay, so we're not going to spend a lot of time in Daniel 1 through 6 because this is not the apocalypse. Daniel's taken to Babylon. He is interpreting dreams. We read of Nebuchadnezzar's golden image with his 4 friends in the furnace. We have in chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar seems to have an about face and praises God, but he has a second dream that needs to be interpreted, at which point he's humiliated and then ultimately restored. His son Belshazzar becomes king, sees the handwriting on the wall, and Daniel is able to interpret. And then we have in chapter 6, Daniel thrown in the lion's den by King Darius. So, things to point out. Daniel isn't able to interpret all of these dreams through God's help. When we get to 7, he can't interpret anything. He needs a supernatural being to give his interpretation. So some key themes we see in Daniel 1 through 6. We see the faithfulness of Daniel and his friends. They don't eat the food. They don't follow the customs. They keep the faith. Daniel is given the gift of wisdom to interpret God's dreams and God's handwriting. He's looked upon highly by foreign rulers across the board. But we see that God's providential design is in control, which this is a theme that carries throughout the book. Remember last week we talked about apocalyptic literature as crisis literature, but also resistance literature. It could be a call to action. We will see this next week in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the war that you are going to have to undertake in order for things to be put right. Daniel 1 through 6 is not that kind of resistance literature. Instead, pacifism and martyrdom are key words. You resist and don't eat the food, but you are okay with being thrown into the fiery furnace or the lion's den. You don't revolt. You don't uprise. You don't fight back. You take the punishment because if you turn into a martyr, you are more powerful. Your witness is more powerful that way than if you fought back like Judas Maccabeus will in the Maccabean revolt. So Daniel 1 through 6 is resistance literature, but it's teaching faithfulness to the Jewish way of life, to prayer, to penitence, to humbling yourself before God, to reading, interpreting Scripture. By just staying on the right path, you will be the best examples. So in a lot of ways, Daniel's 1 through 6 is very similar to the Joseph story, if we think about the characters of the Old Testament. We have a switch in Daniel 7 through 12. Chapter 7, the vision of 4 beasts, the vision of the Ancient of Days. Chapter 8 is a recapitulation, the same revelation, but in a different form. Now we have a ram and a goat that represent these world kingdoms. We have a prayer. That's a theme throughout, Daniel's prayer. But here the angel Gabriel comes and gives future insights. We have a vision of a man. Chapter 11, a prediction of what will happen between the king of the north and the king of the south. And then we conclude our apocalypse, chapter 12. Daniel is told to go your way, for the words are shut up and sealed until the end of time. This is not a message for Daniel's time. It's for future readers. What happens in Revelation? John breaks up all the seals. So we have a different context. By the time it's a different audience, Daniel's audience is going to be the Jews during the Maccabean revolt. But I think it's striking that he is given a revelation that's not meant for him. It will be sealed until the appropriate time. The Revelation's audience, the seals need to be broken now. The secret, we're not going to hold on to the secret for some future time. The 7 cities of Asia Minor need to know the revelation now. So it's a very interesting contrast, I think. This is more interesting notes, tidbits. It is a clear break between chapter 6 and chapter 7. One, we have 2 different languages written. Hebrew is the main language of chapters 8 through 12, and the first chapter and a little bit of the second. Aramaic is the main language of chapters 2 through 7, which I think is interesting. Aramaic is the language that Jesus spoke as a baby. This was his everyday tongue. So there's not very much Aramaic in Aramaic is an easy class to take because there's hardly anything written in Aramaic. So this is it. This and Daniel, and then Jesus and Mark has a couple, the Talitha Kum, the get up little girl, a couple of Aramaic phrases. Everything else is written in Hebrew. So this is striking why there's a difference here. Chapters 1 through 6 is written in the third person, a story about Daniel. Chapter 7 through 12 is written in the first person. Daniel is telling his story. We kind of start over in our history. We start with Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 1 and end with Darius and Cyrus the Persian in chapter 6. Chapter 7 kicks us back to King Belshazzar. So a little bit, a repeat, a little bit. So it's clear we have a break. Something is different starting in chapter 7. So tonight, I want to go through 7 through 12. We have lots of pictures, so that's nice. So looking at chapter 7, we read that this is the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, and we will be given an allegorical animal vision in verses 2 through 8. You need to get your Bibles out. I was going to bring my Bible, but I forgot my office keys, so I have to use my app. I'm sorry. There will be a judgment scene in 9 through 14, an explanation of what we will just have witnessed in verses 15 through 18, an interpretation of the allegory in verses 19 through 27, some political oracles, and some eschatological oracles. And then Daniel faints all over the place. It's just too much. So we get a reaction from him in verse 28. He keeps needing to be revived by the angelic CPR. I mean, it's just, they keep having to touch him and wake him up. I think this is funny. Like, get a grip, buddy. Come on. So, Daniel needs an interpreter. He sees this crazy stuff. And if you ever Google, which I've done all summer, images of Daniel 7, you will see it is up to the artist's interpretation what the heck Daniel is seeing with these people. So I feel for him. I feel for John, who sees this and then has to put into words this amazing thing that he is seeing. And Daniel sees a world of chaos. And if we remember, the Babylonian God has just defeated Yahweh. The one place where proper worship can take place has been destroyed. I can't even get a good Jewish burger anymore in my crazy Babylonian restaurant. Everything is upside down. It is not the way the world should be. It is a world of chaos. So, yeah, monsters are coming out of the sea and are being let loose on the world. That is exactly what is happening. So, verse 2, I saw in my vision by night the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. What is the first thing that happens in creation? Yes, and the land separates from the sea. The sea is chaos. What lives in the sea? Leviathan, sea monsters. The sea has always, any ancient religion, the sea is scary, the sea is chaos, and the first thing God does is pull back the sea and put it where it belongs and brings order to it. So we have the winds stirring up the sea. Now it's backwards. The chaos has come back. And we have four great beasts come out of the sea, and they're all different from one another. The first was like a lion. It has eagle's wings. And then, as I look at it, the wings were plucked off, and it was lifted from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man. And the mind of a man was given to it. So the lion is a symbol of strength. Courage, right? King of the forest. It lives in the savannah, whatever. Ferocity, destructiveness. But the eagle, the king of birds, majestic. So we have these two images put together. A large, powerful, expansionist nation is what this beast represents. And it's a mortal threat to smaller nations. Behold, another beast, a second one like a bear. It was raised up on one side. It had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And it was told, arise, devour much flesh. So a bear is a symbol of something huge, strong, fearsome. The ribs, maybe it's being encouraged to indulge in its appetite. A kingdom that is greedy, that's just going to take everything that it can. I looked, and behold, another beast, like a leopard, with 4 wings of a bird on its back, and the beast had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. A leopard is a fearsome predator. It is fast. It can see and swoop in any direction, especially with 4 heads. So here we have a powerful, energetic nation, which is given wide-reaching dominion. And after this I saw in the night visions, behold, a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Now, an elephant has been used, right? We were given animal names for the other beasts. This is just a terrifying beast. Here is a triceratops, dinosaur. We don't know. We don't know what Daniel saw, but it scared him. Most fearsome and most destructive. And the 10 horns are 10 kings. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horns were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So this little horn has human features.
same little horn that's in Revelation?
Hold that thought. Getting ahead of myself. Yes. But we'll come back. We're going to keep going, and then we're going to come back to this. Then we get the wheelchair with the fiery wheels. This is just awesome. As I looked, the thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took a seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool, and his throne was fiery flames, and its wheels were burning fire. This is just great. So, we just have this image of chaos. The winds are whipping up the sea. These beasts that we can't even understand are coming up out of this. And now the Ancient of Days is on the scene. I look then because the sound of the great words that the little horn was speaking. And as I looked, the beast was killed, and its body destroyed and given over to be burned with fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. This is a huge theme in Daniel. Chaos will happen, but only for the allotted time that God gives. This is where the hope comes from. God is in control. God is allowing these things to happen, and it will be God's timing how this will work out. So these beasts, these kingdoms that have risen up, will cause problems, but there will be an end by this guy. And then, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man. It does not say, there came the Son of Man. I think this is important. I do not think this refers to Jesus. I'm sorry. I think this is one like a Son of Man. Again, Daniel is witnessing this image and trying to give words to it. This figure, which I don't think we can name, I don't think we know, he descends to earth. He is invested as a king. He is given dominion. The Ancient of Days gives him dominion and glory and a kingdom. I think it is important that Jesus uses the term Son of Man, but I don't think we can look at this as a Christological statement. I'm nervous of doing that. But what is important is God's kingdom is going to be entrusted to one like a Son of Man that will ultimately replace the earthly kingdoms. So Daniel, you're in the situation, you're struggling, stay strong, because here's a vision of how these things are going to play out. So, we have the interpretation following this vision. Who are these beasts? I think we need to look back to chapter 2 to get some insight. So in chapter 2, we have the statue, the head of gold, which is said to be, right, this is what Nebuchadnezzar sees and Daniel interprets for him. Gold, the head of gold represents the kingdom of Babylon. And after that will be a lesser kingdom, the silver kingdom, which I think refers to the Medes. After that comes the brass, which will be the Persians. Then the iron will be Greece. And then the feet of iron and clay, the Diadochi, those successors of Alexander the Great. Now, some look and interpret the feet as Rome. I think that gets us too far in history. I think we just need to stop with Alexander the Great's successors, which, in my mind, if it was one kingdom like Rome, why do we have the mixture of iron and clay together? Why is it not just clay or something? So the fact that we've got two things and they're jumbled up, I think it's because we've got a disparate kingdom, infighting, all sorts of stuff going on. So I prefer to interpret the feet as Alexander the Great's successors. So in verse 38, Daniel tells Nebuchadnezzar, you are the head of gold. Remember in 652 BCE, we have a civil war between Assyria, who defeated the northern kingdom, and Babylonia, so that 50-ish years later, 40-ish years later, all Assyrian territory is under Babylonian control. That's pretty amazing. So the fact that it is the head of gold is very fitting, I think. So here is a map of the Babylonian Empire, all the way from the Persian Gulf, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, all the way down to Jerusalem, which is the southern kingdom, right? So taking all of the Assyrian empires taking over. But in 39, Daniel says that another kingdom inferior to you shall rise up, and yet a third kingdom of bronze will rule over all the earth. And there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, because iron breaks to pieces and shatters all things. And like iron that crushes, it shall break and crush all these things. So the inferior kingdom, the silver kingdom, is the Medes. They have to join forces with Babylon. They are not strong enough to defeat Babylon on their own. So they split the Assyrian Empire with the Babylonians. Nineveh is the capital of Assyria, and the Babylonians need to help the Medes. So here's the inferior kingdom part. It's not strong enough to completely wipe out the Babylonians on itself. It needs their help. So these are not really good color choices, but the yellow is the Persian Empire, and inlaid is the Median Empire. So even the Persians will come and overtake all of Mede, which will then overtake, the Persians is what overtakes the Babylonians. So Cyrus the Great, he's the one who issues the edict to let the Jews go back to Judah in 539, and subsequent kings after him continue to expand the empire, so that Daniel can say the third kingdom will rule over all the earth, the known earth, right? This is our third kingdom, the kingdom of bronze. So here we have the Media kingdom is kind of yellow, and then Persia, I don't know, pink. I don't know what that, light pink. But then you can see that by the time we get to 539, that all the colors are under Persian control. So now we're even into Egypt and over into what will become Asia Minor. So much larger area than what we've seen before. We learn of the fourth kingdom in chapter 240. Strong as iron, because iron breaks all things. I think this is Greece, and I think he is talking about Alexander the Great. So look how expansive this has gone, all the way over into India, really expanded to the west. but we have a divided kingdom in verse 41. There will be a firmness of iron, but it will be mixed with soft clay. I think these are those generals that will break up the empire. Ptolemy takes over Egypt. Cleopatra is a Ptolemy. Seleucus gets Syria. Lysimachus gets Thrace, and Cassander gets what will become Greece. So if we compare chapter 2 to chapter 7, I think it lines up quite nicely. The lion is Babylon. The bear are the Medes. The leopard are the Persians. The fearsome beast with the 10 horns is Greece. There were 10 major generals. 4 come out on top, but there was a lot of infighting. And then of the 10 horns are the Diadochi, and the horn with the mouth that is speaking becomes Antiochus IV Epiphanes. So we get an angel's interpretation in 7:15 through 28. The promise that a heavenly kingdom will succeed the earthly ones. There will be 4 great beasts, 4 kings who will arise out of the earth. The 4th kingdom will devour the whole earth. And then the 10 kings will arise out of this kingdom, and 1 more after them. And this last kingdom, it will speak against the Most High. It will wear out the saints. It will try to change the times and the law. And the saints will be given over to it. It will get worse before it gets better. But this kingdom's time is limited. God is still sovereign and in control. This kingdom will be, God's kingdom will be everlasting. This is the promise. So we will have those great beasts, but the saints of the Most High will receive the kingdom. The question becomes, who are the saints? In the Old Testament, this word, the Hebrew word, refers to angelic beings. We like to think that it refers to Israel. Maybe it can refer to both. If we are looking at this as being literature that the Jews can read and be encouraged during the Maccabean revolt, I bet they're thinking the saints are them. We have a recapitulation in chapter 8. 2 years have passed since chapter 7. This is now the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign. Daniel is blessed with another vision. He will need another interpretation. And we missed Daniel's reaction. Just a minute, hold on. At the end of chapter 7, Daniel says, "Here is the end of the matter. The vision's over. As for me, my thoughts greatly alarmed me, and my color changed." I think he went pale. "But I kept the matter in my heart." So he needed 2 years to recover. He couldn't have too much of this all at once. But he's gifted another vision similar to the first. he was in Susa. The setting is different. He's in the city of Susa. This is the capital of the Persian Empire. We read about this in Esther 1 and 2 and Nehemiah 1:1, which Daniel tells us is in the province of Elam, which is located between Babylon and Assyria. And he's at the Ulai Canal. So he gives us all of these really weird details. I mean, super specific. So, in case we wanted to reenact Daniel's vision, we know exactly where to go. Here we see two animals, a ram and a goat. The ram has two horns. One is taller than the other. You can see here there's a whole nother curve in one of the horns compared to the other side. This ram is charging everywhere, westward, northward, southward. He did as he pleased, and he became great. And then we read that these horns are the kings of Media and Persia. So remember, we had the inferior kingdom of the Medes that needed Babylon's help to conquer anybody. This is going to be our small horn. And Persia, the larger horn, he expands everywhere. But we run into the goat. A male goat came from the west across the face of the whole earth without touching the ground. So now we have a flying, floating goat coming from the west. And he had a conspicuous horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram with the two horns, which I had seen standing on the bank of the canal. And he ran at him in his powerful wrath. I saw him come close to the ram, and he was enraged against him, and he struck the ram and broke his two horns. So the goat defeats the ram. And the ram has no power to stand before him, and he cast him down to the ground and trampled on him. And there was no one who could rescue the ram from his power. This goat becomes exceedingly great, and when it's strong, his horn breaks, and four horns come up toward the four winds of heaven, which become the four generals that defeat the other six generals to break up Alexander the Great's kingdom. And out of them comes a little horn, which grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the glorious land. The glorious land is Israel. It grew great even to the host of heaven. So we see that he throws down and tramples some of the host. This is the angelic army. And he tramples the stars, and he causes fearful destruction and transgression of desolation. This one little horn does all of this damage. And we meet Gabriel for the first time in verse 15. When I, Daniel, had seen the vision, I sought to understand, and behold, there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. Remember, there was one like a son of man that descended from heaven in chapter 7. And now, someone before Daniel has the appearance of a man. And Daniel hears a man's voice, and it says, Gabriel, make this man understand this vision. This is the first time an angel is named in the Old Testament. And this is the same Gabriel who appears to Zechariah and Mary. So we conjecture Gabriel is our messenger angel. So Gabriel gives interpretation. Understand that this vision is for the time of the end. It's not for you. These events are not going to happen for a while. There will be wrath on those who rebel against God and his people. So we can trust in that. We can trust that God is in control, and there will be the appropriate judgment and punishment on these kingdoms that are enacting their greed and trampling and destruction on Israel. So basically, we have a recapitulation, a telling of the same story a different way. We have 4 animals representing 4 kingdoms in chapter 7. We have 2 animals with 3 kingdoms in chapter 8, but they're the same kingdoms. One like a son of man, not exactly sure who that is. One having the appearance of a man is Gabriel. The one more after them, the 11th horn, compared to the little horn in chapter 8. And we see that similar things happen by this horn. Wears out the saints. That's, I think, my favorite one, where you just get tired of keeping on, right? Antiochus's laws just wear out the saints. So, I think the one more after them, the little horn, yes, we have a question? The English Standard Version, God's version. Just saying. We did have a fun little textual criticism exercise in Sunday school. Someone's reading a New King James Bible, which is totally fine. But we were in Acts, and there was a whole phrase added that no other Bible has. So she's like, what's going on? I said, I know. So we had a little presentation. Anyway, that's a different class. So I think this 11th horn in chapter 7 and the little horn in chapter 8 is Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Epiphanes means God manifest. This is not the name his mom gave him. He gives himself this nickname. This shows him to be arrogant. He ascends the Seleucid throne in 175. The Seleucus, his ancestor, is who took over the Syrian northern kingdom there up north. And he is all about continuing to promote the Greek way of life, which of course will lead to civil war amongst the Jews, because there will be those who will want to gain Antiochus's favor and start to loosen the laws and the rules, and there will be others who want to become more strict and make sure the law is adhered to. So it is this setting where I think the Pharisees and the Sadducees start to become actual groups that then become really important in our Gospels. But we have these responses to what is going on politically and religiously, and this becomes an issue. Basically, the civil war that is causing issue, because what does any king want? More territory. He needs territory from the south, Egypt, but he has to march through Israel to get it. So here is a map of about 200 to 139 BCE. Egypt is the Ptolemaic Empire. The orange is the Seleucid Empire. Macedonia is kind of purple. Thrace is kind of green. Pergamum. These are all places that Paul visits on his missionary journeys. But the problem is Jerusalem and Judah and Israel are all smack in the middle of all of this. So besides Antiochus wanting to expand his own territory, we've got this infighting amongst the Jews. And so the response is just a total smackdown, which is what Romans do as well. So he forbids any Jewish act. If there was anybody who had a Torah scroll, like whether we're not going to debate whether synagogues existed yet, but we have scrolls. Can't have them. It's illegal. You can't practice circumcision. You can't sacrifice at the temple. That pretty much sums up the entire identity of Judaism right there. Resistors were tortured, and he broke into the temple and sacrificed to the Greek gods, which now shuts the temple down. It's desecrated. This is what ultimately leads to the Maccabean revolt. And what do the Jews see? Yahweh again is defeated by a foreign god. What is the message here? What is the point? What is the plan? Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to take a break. Cliffhanger. All right. Let us take about 10 minutes. I hope I don't break anything.
Because that, to me, that's what she's saying on my Bible. It does say that. A lot of identify but to me, like,
Because when David was writing this, we have not had very much of that.
Yeah, I guess.
Right, and like the foretelling of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it could be either, I mean, I can see either one of them. I mean, and why they like to put it in there. Well, there is, and really,
That's why I said, first thing to do at 5:30. What did I mean? Why did I write that? Why did I write that? Oh my gosh, yes.
You're welcome. I'm old. You gotta make it simple. I'm tired. I'm done having fun. Yeah, right. I don't. That's not gonna happen. I'm not getting I don't mind, I don't like coffees at all. I see where I can work it, but I just don't like being tired. Yeah. Coffee did not work. I've had 2 nights like that because I picked up the kids on Monday, Saturday. So then I got home and I was ready for Sunday. Last night, I kind of, all right, I'm sleeping. I went to bed at 9, woke up at 11, waiting in. I thought there was no going anywhere, going home, that they don't know where they start. I can't. Yeah. For at least an hour. Yeah. When I go to bed, I'm going to lay there. Yeah. Watch TV for an hour. Yeah. I can handle it a little bit. Yeah. Oh, I've done that. Sometimes things happen. Yeah. So while this is all going on, that's good. From the west, right? So they come in the opposite direction. And then which is Alexander, but he dies in and so stem from one of his the Romans the Trojan War. And the Caesar so small, they're not okay. The Chiefs start soon, so we need to wrap up.
Yes, they do. Who told you that?
I'm aware. I missed the rapture, but I know when the Chiefs play.
Me too. Okay, gotcha. I thought maybe someone whispered it in your ear.
No. I checked to see when game time started. I understand. I know where I fall. I have no qualms about, yeah. Okay, let's get started. Woo. Welcome back. Thank you.
Supposed to say 1, 2, 3 eyes on me.
Yeah, right. Or the. Oh, my daughter is a junior at K-State, and she wants to be a choir teacher. I know, so fun. Anyway, so she helped out at the Columbian Theater children's musical over the summer, and her little thing to get their attention is let's cook, is what she says, and then all the kids say something like, yes, chef, or something. Anyway, and they do it, and it's so cute. Anyway, let's cook. Yes, chef. Okay. Chapter 8 of Daniel recapitulates the vision that Daniel sees in chapter 7. And the angel Gabriel tells Daniel that this little horn will have a great power. He will cause fearful destruction. He will succeed in what he does, destroy mighty men and the people who are the saints. He shall make deceit prosper, and in his own mind shall be great. Remember his nickname, God Manifest? He will even rise up against the prince of princes, but he will be broken, but not by a human hand. The vision of the evenings and the mornings that has been told is true, but seal up the vision, Daniel. or it refers to many days from now. And I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for some days. And then I rose and went about the king's business, but I was appalled by the vision and did not understand it. So even with the angel's interpretation, he is struggling to grasp what this can mean. So it's not surprising that we have a prayer interlude in chapter 9. Now we move to the reign of King Darius. We were in the reign of Belshazzar in 7 and 8. So time has progressed. We read of Jeremiah's 70 years. Daniel is reading the book of Jeremiah in exile. I think this is amazing that they were able to protect their holy scripture and they are allowed to still read it. This is pretty awesome. The bulk of the chapter is Daniel's penitential prayer, and then Gabriel comes and interprets what Daniel is reading and what his prayer is about. So, verse 2, in the first year of King Darius's reign, Darius the Mede, not Darius the Persian, two different guys. Daniel perceived in the books the number of years that according to the word of the Lord to Jeremiah the prophet must pass before the end of the desolations of Jerusalem, namely 70 years. So Jeremiah in chapter 25 prophesies, this whole land shall become a ruin and a waste. These nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years, Shavim Shana in the Hebrew. Then after 70 years are completed, I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, the land of the Chaldeans, for their iniquity, says the Lord, making the land an everlasting waste. And then in Jeremiah 29, for thus says the Lord, only when Babylon's 70 years. We're still going. Yeah, I know. Oh, this is so fraught. Okay. I don't even know what I was talking about. Jeremiah. Okay. Nobody move. Okay. Okay, so if you're thinking about this, he's had these two crazy visions. An angel, Gabriel, comes, but it's still very disturbing to see these things, to try to grasp what will happen. It's only sort of comforting that it's not for his time period. It's for someone in the future, but it really sounds like it's going to be not good for whoever gets to deal with the little horn. So we get to a point where Daniel just needs to pray. This communal prayer of confession, which makes me think of Nehemiah's prayer. If you need a good little recap of Old Testament history, Nehemiah 9 covers it all. It's real, I'm dead serious. He covers all the bases. So we have this communal prayer of confession. He's remembering, he's reading about Jeremiah's 70 years, which Jeremiah is thinking about the exile. And God tells Jeremiah he's going to separate himself from Israel. This is going to be a time of punishment. Remember last week we talked about the three parts of the prophetic message. You've broken the covenant. There will be judgment, but there's always hope. So here is our second part. We are living out the second part, the consequences to our breaking of the covenant. And Daniel is remembering this as he's reading. So all we can do is turn to God and pray. And he prays that the affliction of Jerusalem, he acknowledges That isn't a punishment for sin and will only be removed with repentance and prayer. But I find this interesting. So I'll read a bit of the prayer. Oh Lord, the great and awesome God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his covenant. We have sinned and done wrong and act wickedly and rebelled, turning aside from your commandments and rules. We have not listened to your servants, the prophets. Only to you, Lord, belongs righteousness, but to us belongs shame. And he goes on and on for a while. While I was speaking and praying, I'm in verse 20, confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my plea before Yahweh my God for the holy hill of my God, while I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the first, came to me in swift light at the time of the evening sacrifice. And he says, Daniel, I have now come out to give you insight and understanding. At the beginning of your pleas for mercy, a word went out. Daniel prays for verses and verses and verses. At the beginning, God hears him. And I have come to tell you, Daniel, you are greatly loved. Consider the word and understand the vision. Gabriel was sent the minute Daniel started to pray. God did not need the whole prayer to be convinced of anything. I find this fantastic. Daniel's prayer is answered before he finished praying. And this is very much an apocalyptic view of history. History is predetermined. Next week, when we look at First Enoch, the book First Enoch is a compilation of 5 apocalypses, and like 2 of them are a recording of history. So remember last week we talked about how there was the historical apocalypse where we get the breakdown of history, but then the other worldly journeys when people are whipped off to heaven. So what we get with our apocalyptic worldview is it doesn't matter. I'm not going to say it that way. History is predetermined. Regardless of Daniel's prayer, the end is decreed. God is in control. He knows how this is going to play out. Humans have a role, but you can rest assured that what will happen will be what God intends all along. But Daniel learns something. He's misunderstanding Jeremiah's prophecy. The 70 weeks are decreed about your people and your holy city. But it's not Shavim Shana, it's Shavum Shavim. It's 77s. It's not 70 years, it's 77s, which there's 7 days in a week. So some people say 70 weeks. And then if you do the math, this is where that people come up with the 490 years between the Old Testament and the New Testament and all this stuff. So I am purposefully not going to use the word weeks because I think in apocalyptic literature, numbers are symbols. So this is where people get real hung up, right? We're going to do all the math and figure out when Jesus is coming back. And I don't think that's really what the numbers are meant for. 7 is a whole, complete number. So it is representative of something. So Gabriel comes and he interprets what Daniel's read in Jeremiah. And in the first 7 sevens, a word will go out and Jerusalem will be rebuilt. And we know this to be true. Cyrus will give the edict and send people back. And Ezra and Nehemiah and Zedekiah will rise up, Haggai, and the city walls will be rebuilt. The gates will be hung. Everyone will build their houses, and God will get mad, and then they'll finally build the temple, but it will all work out in the end. Haggai's, poor Haggai. Anyway, at the end of this 7 sevens, an anointed one will come. We don't know exactly who this is. I'm picking up the wrong stack. The conjecture is Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah, maybe Joshua, the first post-exilic high priest, who Zechariah and Haggai really go after, because these are the guys who are not doing their jobs, right? Haggai talks a lot about the fancy houses you all live in, and the temple doesn't even have a base to be built on. So there will be an anointed one, which, remember, anointed is Messiah. So I do not think we're talking about Jesus, but there will be a chosen one who will come up after the 7 sevens. And this will lead to the 62 sevens, which, if you want to do the math, could be the 6th century to the 2nd century BCE. And we've got troubled times, Gabriel says. And then an anointed one will be cut off. So we've got brackets. It's very nice, very symmetrical. During the time of Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, Anias the third, we're not very creative with our names. We keep just naming people the same thing over and over. Anyway, he's a high priest. He's murdered. The high priest is murdered because he speaks out against Antiochus and how the temple vessels are being misused. So at the end of 62 sevens, Gabriel says, an anointed one will be cut off. And in the last 7, there will be an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abomination shall come one who makes desolate, until the decreed end is poured out on the desolator. The abomination of desolation, the neutralization of sacred place, is the best way to bring a culture to its knees. When your God defeats their gods. And this is what will happen in the last 7. Here we go. So look at that. So, what I find interesting, there's no call to action. There's no call to uprise, to fight back. All there is, which is not all there is an offering of hope. There will be an end to this desolator. But we have to go through the abomination first. Which gets us to our last vision. A few years later, during the reign of King Cyrus, a word is revealed to Daniel. And the word was true, and there was a great conflict, and he understood the word and had understanding of the vision. He didn't need an interpreter for this one. But he sees a terrifying man. I don't know. We have superheroes that look like that. This is not very terrifying to us anymore. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 weeks. I ate no delicacies, no meat, no wine entered my mouth, nor did I anoint myself for the full 3 weeks. And on the 24th day of the first month, as I was standing on the bank of the Tigris River, I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man clothed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist, and his body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs gleamed like burnished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a multitude. So he has this vision of this guy. But he is told to fear not. Your words have been heard. And I heard the sound of his words. And as I heard the sound of his words, I fell on my face in a deep sleep with my face to the ground. So we've had him lose color. We've had him be sick in bed for days. And now he passes out. It's overwhelming. It's so much. And the hand touches me and sets me trembling on my hands and knees. Oh, Daniel, man greatly loved, understand the words that I speak to you and stand up right now, for I have been sent to you. Fear not. For from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your word. Another element of apocalyptic worldview. There's an unseen world. There are events going on that we cannot see that impact us on earth, and we impact them. So there's two dimensions, if you will. A supernatural background of the Hellenistic wars. And we will read in verse 13 of another angel, Michael. He is one of the chief princes, and he is going to battle against the princes of Persia and Greece. So we have these earthly kings that are waging war on earth, and their heavenly, lowercase h, angelic alter egos are battling up in heaven. This leads us to chapter 11, which we will get a pretty clear explanation of the king of the north, the little horn, Antiochus IV, and the king of the south, the Ptolemies. So whatever is happening on earth is reflected up in heaven, but we have been given promise after promise that these earthly powers will not rule the day. So we know that the heavenly princes will defeat their evil counterparts, right? The dualism, the good versus the bad, the righteous versus the wicked, this is very prominent. So here is a map. I don't know if I have a date on this, but again, the green Seleucid Empire down with the Ptolemaic Empire. And when you read historic records, not even biblical records, just historic records, all they do is fight for territory right where Israel is. Back and forth for years. This is what chapter 11 is about. So chapter 11, this burning from the inside out guy, tells Daniel that there will be 3 more kings shall arise in Persia, and a 4th shall be far richer than all of them, and he will stir up all against the kingdom of Greece. So we have this recapping of history, and then the king of the south will be strong, and one of his princes shall be stronger, and then he will rule. I think this is talking about Antiochus IV Epiphanes. But what we learned, what the angel says is there will be external conflict. They will fight. with outsiders, but there will also be internal dissolution. Those generals of Alexander the Great can't keep it together, and they will be eclipsed by a stronger power. They will try to gain power through marriage alliances, we read in verse 6. They will try to use force, verse 7 through 8 and 10 and 12. And none of this will matter. They're going about it all the wrong way. And then we get to the last king of the north. He shall arise a contemptible person. I mean, who nicknames themselves God Manifest? I mean, come on. He shall come in without warning, and he will obtain the kingdom by flatteries. This is true. He was exiled. There were other people in line for the throne, but he ends up getting it. And he continues this mode with when he goes into Judea and starts to get some Jews on his side. In verses 25 through 28, we read of the king of the north and the king of the south, and they are going back and forth. And he returns, he's real mad about this in 28. He returns to Syria. His heart is set against the Holy Covenant. He is going to take out his defeat on the Jews. The temple is profaned. Regular burnt offerings are taken away. And we have this abomination that makes desolate. But in verse 29, it's a long chapter. At the appointed time. This is the key phrase. At God's appointed time, the end will come. He will not be as successful as he was before. We read of various groups in verses 32 through 35. He will seduce with flattery those who violate the covenant. So I think these are those Jews who align with him. The people who know their God shall stand firm and take action. This is the first time we read about this. I think this is talking about Matthias and his sons who will lead the Maccabean revolt. Those who know their God will show resistance. Up to this point, Daniel has been told to be passive. But now we see that there will be a time to show resistance. The wise among the people will make many understand. These are the true heroes of chapter 11. Those who keep the law and preach the law, teach the law. But we will have a multitude where some will be martyred. In verses 36 through 39, we have a summary of Antiochus' attacks on any and all gods. He uses language that is only language that should be used for a god, much less God. He exalts himself. He magnifies himself. He doesn't heed his own ancestral gods. He doesn't heed the God loved by women. We don't really know who that is. And he uses the help of a foreign god. He's not even following the Greek rules. He's going off the rails. So, some conjecture, maybe like the Canaanite god Baal he's just off the charts, going crazy. But in verse 40 to 45, at the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, but the king of the north will rush upon him like a whirlwind. Antiochus will travel south. There will be a final battle that will take place in the glorious land. He will hear of news from the east. Who's coming? Rome. He will pitch his tent between the sea and Mount Zion, and his battle with Rome will be his downfall. So this is the second time in this chapter where the angel has mentioned a specific time. All of this will happen, but there is an appointed time. This is our takeaway. But we're not done. At that time, chapter 12, verse 1, shall arise Michael, the great prince who has charge of your people. So we have these visions of all this stuff happening on earth, but the promise is our heavenly angel Michael will be doing battle just as those who resist on earth will be doing battle. He shall arise. He shall be in charge of Daniel's people. He will deliver Daniel's people who are named in the book. Remember in Nehemiah when Ezra stands up and reads the names of the people who can live in Jerusalem? It's very exclusive. One, the fact that he still has that book is amazing, that survived the exile. And two, you got to prove, you got to have your papers that you are part of these families, that your name is in the book. I don't think this is the book of life or anything like that. I think these are the official Jewish people, the same book, the equivalent that Ezra is reading as to who can come back in and live in Jerusalem. If your name is not on the list or you can't prove it, you get to live outside the city. This is who Michael will fight for. This is who Michael will deliver. And we have a promise of the resurrection for the faithful. And these wise teachers, these mashkalim, which Daniel could be one of them, will have a life of eternity. So this is new. We haven't really had a lot of discussion of the afterlife yet up to this point. In verse 4, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the end of time. Till the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. These visions are not for your time. You need to write them down as best you can and then put your seals on them. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others stood, one on this bank of the stream and one on that bank of the stream. And someone said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the stream, how long shall it be till the end of these wonders? And he says, a time, times, and half a time. And there has been much debate as to what this means. A year, years, and half a year? There's a perfectly good Hebrew word for year, and that's not this one. So again, I think we should not be focused too much on days, because he tells us in verse 11 that there will be 1,290 days that between the time the regular burnt offering is taken away and the abomination that makes desolation is set up. And blessed is he who waits and arrives at the 1,335 days. This will become big in Revelation. We need to lean on the interpretation that the seer is giving us. We shouldn't work real hard at coming up with it ourselves. We don't know who the one is that will arise. Maybe this is Judas Maccabeus, right? We have to desolate the temple, and then we have the Maccabean revolt after that. A lot of debates as to when we start counting these days. But we are given exact numbers, however you want to read them. So, verse 13, you go your way till the end. You shall rest and you shall stand in your allotted place at the end of days. So this is Daniel's promise. He's a wise teacher. He needs to write these words down. He needs to seal them for the audience that will come in the future. And you will be promised your place, your blessing. So this is how Daniel ends. He doesn't pass out. He's not sick for days. He gets his blessing. You shall rest and you shall stand. So we get 6 affirmations, I think, from the last 3 chapters of Daniel. This message to Daniel in chapters 10 through 12 comes by divine revelation. We see these heavenly powers sharpening the events of earthly history. We know that the details of Israel's history are within the control of God. The Persian and Hellenistic history has no positive theological significance. They will not impact God and God's plan in any way. The destiny of the faithful and the wicked is secure. So even though it seems like the wicked are prospering now, they will get what they deserve in God's time. The destiny of the faithful are challenged to steadfastness, not action. So during Daniel's time, they are called to be passive. We will see later, they are called to action. So, as we conclude, some influence of Daniel's apocalyptic literature on the New Testament. We will read again of Gabriel and Michael in the New Testament. As I said before, Gabriel appears to Zechariah and to Mary and Luke. We will have Michael doing heavenly battles in Revelation 12. The Son of Man image is Jesus' preferred title for himself. He never calls himself Son of God. Other people do. Demons do. But he is like a Son of Man. He is the Son of Man. So I think this is important. We don't know who the figure is in Daniel 7. But Jesus says, I am now he. I will be given dominion. I will be given the kingdom. We don't know what was happening in Daniel, but now, as God's kingdom is being ushered in, we can pull this Old Testament imagery in, and we can make these connections and see how it all fits together. Also, I think this idea of the kingdom of God being at hand is also a really big Daniel influence. Mark 1:14 through 15, Jesus proclaimed the gospel saying, the time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God is at hand. Repent and believe in the gospel. And in Daniel 2:44, we have the promise of a kingdom that will never be destroyed. And in Daniel 7:21 to 21, maybe 22, I don't know, typo. There will be a time when the saints will possess the kingdom. So I think we have some allusions to the kingdom of God in Daniel 7 that the Gospels bring about to say, now is the time. Again, these visions in Daniel aren't meant for Daniel's time. I think it's meant for the time during Antiochus, but maybe even further into the future during the time of the first century. And Jesus uses this language that his audience will resonate and hear and be like, okay, the visions are coming true now. And I think this is all very intentional so that we can have these little hooks to help us track how God's plan is going throughout history. Okay. I don't have a Chiefs score, so you're going to have to run home and get it. There's a lot. There's a lot in Revelation. Okay. Very good. So next week, we will look at intertestamental apocalyptic literature, the literature written between the testaments. So we will see how Daniel influences that literature as well.
It's 7-0.
Oh,
All right.
All right.
right.